when you keep using food to cope with all the shit that's going on in your life, you're gonna have a bad time. What's going on, legend? Angus here. Thanks for stopping by to click on this video. Really appreciate you. And in this week's episode of Anti-Diet TV, I'm going to be sharing on basically using food as a coping mechanism. Now, obviously in life, right, the only certainty really in terms of life as a whole is that it's uncertain, yeah? So in other words, there's always going to be stuff going on in terms of your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month that will throw you for a six, and basically just life going, yeah, sucker, let's see how you go with that. You know what I mean? In other words, there's going to be curveballs and even in your day-to-day, various shit that will come up that might throw you from your, your routine and your comfort zone and all that sort of thing, right? So this is where basically the whole scenario that is using food as a coping mechanism for the shit that's going on in your life, right? Now, my hand goes up for basically being that sort of person where, where I would definitely use food as a way to like handle and work through some of the things that were going on in my life, whether it be personal stuff, relationship stuff, family stuff, work stuff, stuff, right? Like it's easy to use food as a way to cope with the struggles that we're going through, right? And of course it can feel good at the time to a degree, in terms of like, let's say that you have had something that's come up and you're feeling pretty overwhelmed by it all, and obviously we're looking for that dopamine fix so that we can have a bit of pleasure to handle whatever it is that's going on. It's easy to go to hyper-palatable foods that will yield and bring that dopamine fix that we're looking for, right? So example, you're not gonna go and go to the fridge and be like, right, I'm keen for some, celery or like some fruit sticks or whatever, right? Like you're going to go to whatever, hyper-palatable stuff is that you've got. And by hyper-palatable, I mean things that have got that are fairly processed, that have got a nice mix of sugar and, carbs and that nice variety of different textures and stuff, because it's gonna bring that dopamine fix that we're looking for, right? So here's where it's interesting, because like if you create a pattern around that, you're going to find it harder to break over time, and you'll create a bit of a loop in terms of like, well, obviously your body picks up on patterns and your choices and actions and how you go about responding to stresses in your environment. So naturally, if you're the sort of person who creates a pattern around basically turning to food when shit gets hard, it's going to feel harder and harder to break it when it comes to you realizing that this is a toxic pattern and wanting to break it, to be able to kind of like go to other things as a source of handling stress. So it's like you're going to be met with a bit of resistance, all right? So in terms of resistance, right, let me just shift the camera here. In terms of the resistance, what I mean by this is like your body's going to recognize that you're doing something different, and it's going to want you to try and go back to what you were doing before. So this is where whatever form of new coping mechanism you're going to be choosing, you obviously need to be consistent with it, so that way it becomes a norm for how you go about handling that, stress or whatever it might be in the future, all right? So example of effective coping mechanisms that will actually serve you and your goals, because obviously if you're using food as a coping mechanism, chances are that it will negate any fat loss efforts that you've been consistent with for during the week, right? So if you're turning to, say, for example, instead of food, being present and aware of the fact that you're going through these sort of stressed emotions, and being in a decision-making mindset to then go, right, no, I'm gonna go and beat the shit out of a boxing bag, or I'm going to go for a walk and I'm gonna listen to my favorite podcast, or I'm going to go and ring a friend and have a chat and vent about what I'm going through, or I'm gonna go and speak to my coach and I'm gonna go and tell him or her that I'm struggling with this and I need some guidance, or I'm going to have a nice hot bath and listen to some Mariah Carey Christmas beats, or watch Queen's Gambit or Netflix, or whatever it might be. Like there's a whole host of things that you can be doing instead that are actually going to be proactive for yourself and be an effective coping mechanism, so that you can just settle, or even just like deep breathing. That's a really good one where like you'd be surprised how much it fills your your brain and your system with oxygenated blood to help you to handle a perceived stress or curveball that's been thrown your way. Deep breathing's a really good one. Because and if you think about any time that you've ever used food to cope with something you've had going on, right? How often do you ever feel good afterwards? Like, it's usually then followed up with some guilt that usually comes afterwards, you know what I mean? So naturally, as you can see here, it's a means of being consistently aware of kind of like whether your choices and actions are actually serving you to be able to create the space mentally to then create consistency with the right things. Because obviously if your patterns of using food as a coping mechanism continue, that also can create the space for binge eating to occur, right? Both my hands go up for that as well. I used to be that sort of person, right? But be patient with yourself over time. If this is like a struggle of yours, be patient with yourself. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, becoming a fucking Jedi at letting go of using food as a coping mechanism. It's going to take you a bit of time, but with coaching and with some proper help and a good supportive environment, you'll be surprised about how quickly you can change how you approach diversity and problems in life. Because as I said at the start, the only certain thing about life is that it's uncertain. So if you can break that pattern of using food as a coping mechanism, trust me, it's going to make a world of difference in terms of your ability to be able to be consistent around food. And in terms of your relationship with food, if you're building it, so if you're trying to build your results based off of restriction, you're kind of setting yourself up to be able to have overfeeding sessions anyway, because it's all just a part of how your body picks up on that restriction, and it's going to kind of get you to fixate on food anyway. So you probably will start binging eventually. See my other videos on the channel or on my social media if you want some insight around this. But either way, hey, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it's been eye-opening for you, because this is stuff that a lot of my clients typically struggle with when they're starting out with me. It's stuff that I used to struggle with when I started out, and well, not when I started out, but it's stuff that I struggled with for a period of time in the past. If you are on the struggle bus when it comes to these things, feel free to get in touch or light up the comment section below. I'd love to add some value and help you out potentially. Otherwise, if you found this video valuable, give it some love, and potentially share it and tag me in your share, so that way we can get more people seeing this message. But I appreciate you for watching. See you in next week's episode of Anti-Diet TV. Peace out, fam.